Okay, good morning everyone. So we're just on for a half hour there, just talking about soul retrieval and the impact that it has on our life. So basically what happens is when everything that we go through in life, it causes a trauma. It causes an impact. It causes a fear. So when your body goes through a trauma or an impact or a fear, it suppresses a part of you. It suppresses a part of your emotions. So it's kind of like a little bit like, your Pandora's box. Or when you go through a trauma, you intend to try to disassociate with it. Well, what's basically happening is that a part of your soul, they call it a soul fragment. A soul fragment, a part of yourself that's gone through the trauma, disassociates from your soul. So what happens there is, if you think about when you shut your mind off from stuff or you try to shut off a trauma, that soul part of yourself is just being released from your soul. So if you think of your soul as being fragments, then what happens is you will start to feel a bit of disassociation from yourselves. You may start to feel a bit lost within your life. It can cause depression. It can cause anxiety. It can cause a lack of purpose within your life, a lack of uncertainty within your life. So by going through any trauma, it has a huge impact on how you deal with things, and how you cope with things, and how you survive through things. So with soul retrieval, what it basically does, it takes you, the client, on a journey. So we go on a journey. And as a practitioner, we look to see where that soul is. We look to see where that fragment is. And then through encouragement, through working with the soul, we ask it to come back. So now you would probably associate this with, if you're looking at a part of your life and a trauma and it comes in and you don't want to deal with it, you let it go. So you hide it. And then sometimes as you go through life, that trauma comes back up again. So what it's doing, there's a healing within it. So there's a purpose within it. And that healing within that is asking you to accept and to heal that trauma so that you can become complete within yourself again. Because every part of the trauma that we go through is a part of ourselves. Every part of the experience that we go through is a part of ourselves. So what we need to do is we have to heal the trauma that we have been through in order for us to become complete. So if you think of a jigsaw piece and you being the jigsaw and you're missing a part of that jigsaw piece, it's not complete. It's the same with yourself. If there's a part of you missing because of the trauma that you've been through, it's a part of you being incomplete. Okay? So to be complete, you need to find that missing part of the jigsaw. Okay, so guys, this one for now is just soul retrieval. We're back on now tomorrow for readings at 10:15, okay? So with the trauma that you go through, a part of that jigsaw piece gets taken away. So when you're going through a healing process, as a person, as a practitioner, we can go and find to see where that trauma is embedded within yourself, to see where that trauma is and encourage that fragment of the soul to come back. So this is through negotiation. This is through finding that soul and saying, look, the trauma is over now. It's time for you to come back and reconnect with the person or to reconnect with yourself. Now, sometimes when it's a big trauma, and we all understand about big traumas, because sometimes the big traumas are the ones that we don't want to deal with. The big traumas are the things that we don't want to face. So within this, what we do then is there has to be a compromise. So there's a bit of counselling going on with that fragment. There's a bit of counselling going on with that part of the soul that has gone into hiding. And it's an encouragement about bringing that soul to come back to you. Now, when you do that, depending on the severity of the trauma, will mean that there is possibly some more healing that needs to go through. So guys, this isn't for cards at the moment. That's tomorrow. We did that this morning, okay? So there's a part of healing that you have to undergo. So how does it impact a person if the soul comes back, and how does it and reconnects back with yourselves? So you can start to feel a lot more complete within yourself, and you can start to feel a lot more balanced within yourself. Now, depending on the trauma will depend on how instant that completion is done and how good you feel after it. So if there's still emotional healing to be done with it, and there's still a work to be done with yourself through it and acknowledging it and understanding it, it may take a while for that healing to overcome and to take place. So it could take a couple of months, or if you're ready to accept that healing, if you're ready to move forward, it could be an instant process. Remember with yourself as well that we have coping mechanisms. So sometimes when we go through a trauma, we shut down because it's too much for us to bear. It's too much for us to cope with. So like that, it's like that jigsaw goes missing for a little piece, for a little while. But then when it's ready to come back, you find it and you bring it back. Okay? So the main part about soul retrieval is about understanding, and it does make a lot of sense, because the best way I can explain it to yourself is like when you go through a trauma, you automatically shut it down. That's the best way I can explain it for you to understand it. We shut down from the trauma. We go into coping. We go into the fight mode. We go into the survival mode of not wanting to deal with that trauma. So when that trauma of you not coping with it and not being able to deal with it, that's when the soul fragment disappears. It just disconnects from yourself. And then it's down to us to bring it back. And the way to bring it back is through healing, is having to deal with that trauma to process it. Now, the difference with the fragment, when it's disappeared, it comes back after the trauma is over. So it's kind of like a disembodiment within yourselves, really, where it hides from that trauma, and when it's ready, it comes back. And sometimes it'll want to come back to you, and sometimes we have to encourage in it. But if you understand your life is healing, and if you understand yourself as how you process your things and the traumas that you've been through, and when you start to acknowledge it and you actually start to identify with it, then you allow the process of healing to take place. So you're actually allowing yourself forgiveness, you're allowing yourself peace, and you're allowing yourself harmony. And then by doing that, you start to feel a little bit better within yourself. You start to feel a little bit more complete, you start to feel a little bit more in control. But it's a process that you need to go through. So your soul is an essence within yourself that directs you, it guides you to where you need to be. And if your soul is not satisfied, you as a person don't feel satisfied. You feel lost. It can cause depression, fibromyalgia, it can cause blocks within life, it can cause that uncertainty of where you're going, that dissatisfaction within your life. Because your soul is what you work from. It's the higher being within yourself. And unfortunately, when we're here on the physical plane, we do go through life, we do go through traumas, and we do go through experiences. But through those experiences, we also learn. Sometimes things are harder than others, and sometimes things are easier to overcome. But the one thing that we do have a right to be is to be happy. And sometimes we need to look into our lives and see what's making those blocks. And normally it's because you don't feel satisfied within yourself. So there's a piece of you missing. And that piece of you missing always has a link to trauma. That piece of you always has a link to an experience that hasn't been very good for yourself. Okay? That piece of trauma hasn't always been quite right in terms of how you dealt with it. Maybe it was a trauma from a young age and you didn't have the coping techniques, you didn't have the understanding or the experience how to deal with that trauma. It comes in a lot to do with belief systems as well. Do you know what with the belief systems of parents come back in time as well? So you need to look at your belief systems and you just say, well, this fits with me and that doesn't fit with me. We have evolved as a generation. We have evolved through knowledge and through experience. So through that, the way that we have been brought up, we have to change our thoughts and our thinking process to adapt to the life that we're in now. So sometimes, a lot of people come up as in, children should be seen and not heard, just say for one instance. And that may have worked back in the older generations and parents and grandparents because people weren't out for things then. It was a lot more easier, I feel, although they say it was harder. Okay. But the other one is really about understanding that within that trail of thought, that belief system, we believe because we've been taught that belief system. But now that children should be seen and not heard can hinder us moving forward because we feel that we don't have the right to voice ourselves. We find it hard to express ourselves because we've been taught elders respect them. And respect is good, but at the same time, that takes our empowerment away. So that takes our I suppose, our opinions, it takes away our options from ourselves. Because if people are being derogatory to ourselves, we've been told, don't talk. But then we're lacking our self-confidence as a belief of it. We've lacked our understanding within it, and we've started to take away our power. And we've allowed people to have our power. So when you think about yourself as being an energy, energy is constantly flowing. So if you just think of a watermill and the water is going round and round and round, if you feel dissatisfied within your life or dissatisfied, that water is not going round and round anymore. So you're on that pause, because we're energy, we have to keep them flowing. Just like rivers and, the wind, whether it's be gentle, it's always there. It has to keep flowing. If you stop flowing, then you're not seeking what you need, and you're not being satisfied in what you need. So then you need to ask yourself, where does it come from? What is stopping me from doing that? And it'll always take you back to a trauma within that. It'll always take you back to something within this as well, So again, the soul retrieval is about just sitting down, finding out what part of you has gone missing, and just encouraging it to come back. And this is something you can do with yourself, is by just going back and looking into what needs to be healed, and encouraging yourself and talking to yourself nicely. Talking to yourself about understanding what has happened. Look at yourself from the point of view, well, okay, it has happened, but I have learned from that. So take the positive from the negative. Take the positive from what's going on with yourself and moving forward within this. Okay? It's about understanding that you do have control. It's also understanding that if you don't know how to do it, that healings through shamanic journeys and through healing journeys can help you to bring it back and help you to understand and help you to move forward on what you need to learn, but also how to change it as well. The small traumas will come back quite quickly, and the fragments from that will come back quite quickly. But a bigger one, there's a process, and it could take months to undergo that process and to heal that as well. Okay, does anybody have any questions and around that? Because that's just basically just touching on what soul retrieval is about. Does anybody have any questions around soul retrieval? Because that's what we're discussing at this moment in time. Or the impacts around you, or if you're going through, does that have an impact on soul retrieval? Does that have an impact on trauma? Does that have an impact on emotional? Also techniques that you may find or you may want to know about how you can use them in your life to help you to move forward. Because once you have the tools to move forward, you can move forward quite easily, and you can move forward better, because you understand that you have change. So does anybody have any questions around that? You can get healings that will help you to go through that process and do that journey for you to bring your soul back as well. So if you find it difficult, there are practitioners out there that can do that for yourselves as well, and do that through a healing journey for yourself as well. No, we all good? Okay, perfect. So that was just a little bit of a talk on just soul retrieval, and just understanding that when you go through a trauma, there's a part of you that goes missing within that trauma, and soul retrieval based. So I'm going to love and leave you on that. And I will see you tomorrow at 10:15. 10:15 on guidance and card readings. So we've done our card readings for today. So I'll be back on 10:15 tomorrow morning with regards to that. Okay, have an amazing day. Go look after yourself. Make sure you got plenty of sunblock on yourselves, and just enjoy yourselves for today and let go of your worries. Okay, take care, guys. Bye.